Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from PowerSonic and Apprentice 1-to-1. In today's video I want to run through NAPIT FastTest. It's recently been upgraded from NAPIT Desktop. Well, it has for me anyway. I know some people have had access to this through the Trimble merge over the last few months, but I've been getting to grips with it over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I thought I'd do a little video. I've demonstrated it actually on site with the iPad. I'm going to run through the desktop now. I'll show you how that syncs up into an iPad certificate, and we'll have a look at one of those as well, if I can get the screen record to behave itself, and see if we can put it together into a usable video. Now, excuse me if I'm not looking at the camera through the course of this. I've got to focus it on my laptop screen, so I'm going to do that and basically show you how this works. So if you're new to NAPIT FastTest and you've got some old NAPIT desktop data to import, there is a wizard in here that you can do that through. It's really quite straightforward and simple, and then all of your certificates would be pre-populated and visible within the new software, which is fantastic. The only thing to note is that if you're kind of importing old certificates, they present in the old format as well, kind of as they were produced. You don't get all of the, or I don't think you get, from what I've seen, the logos and such that you're preloading into the software now. They're kind of there for new certificates. But the biggest feature you've got with this is Cloud Sync. So it'll sync all of your certificates into the cloud, and then you've got access to them from all of your devices that have got FastTest installed, which is brilliant. You can import and export certificates. You can assign them to particular engineers, so they will go and display on their iPads, which is great for me. So I can assign jobs in a morning to particular engineers where they're going to get certificates that they can work on. I can view the changes and look at them as well on my software suite, which is great. And yeah, let's run through the actual software itself. So you'll see here you've got 5 key areas. You've got electrical, fire alarm, emergency lighting, ventilation and gas. We don't really use the gas certificates, so I can't talk too much about those, but the other ones we do. So we'll have a little run through each section, and then we'll dive in and look at 1 or 2 certificates here and there. I'm not going to look at every single one because I don't want to bore you all to death, but we'll start with electrical. And you'll see in there you've got the NAPIT minor works, you've got a normal minor works, electrical installations, EICRs, the landlord electrical installation safety record, which is a really powerful thing NAPIT do, so I want to talk about that one. There's portable appliance testing, your arc fault risk declarations, surge risk, and then you've got some particular EICRs for caravans and transportable units. Then you've got the dangerous situation report. Now, if we have a little look at a minor works, and I will have to blur a lot of the customer information out on this. You can see here my laptop is just undergoing an update, so it's downloading some software, so it might be a little bit slow while I'm demonstrating this, but we've got there. So you'll see I've got some customer details I'm going to have to blur out, and essentially it'll open up the certificates in here. You can see I've got some conflicts to resolve, which is to do with importing some of the certificates. I just want to open this one, so if we open it we can have a look. And yeah, essentially it looks very similar to the way desktop did. There's a few differences in the way it's put together. So you can see we've got the schedule of test results and also the schedule of inspections, which is the unique to the NAPIT minor works. And if we open them up, this is what I'm talking about. The intro page, it's set to the older version of desktop because that's where the certificate was produced. And you see generally it looks very, very similar. You've got all your scheduled inspections you can mark off, entering your engineer's information. I'm not going to run too in depth on that certificate because minor works are quite basic in the way that they operate. And you'll see there it's giving me the option to set the conflicts, resolve them as I've closed the certificate, but at the minute I don't need to do that, so we'll just make sure that that's shut down and we can have a look at something else. So if we go into electrical installation, and again you'll see I've got a certificate that's ongoing at the moment, and we've got some completed ones as well. If I open up this completed certificate, it'll give you an idea of some of the logos that you can put onto the certificates and how they actually look with the new FastTest. If you're not familiar with it and you've been in desktop for a while, it can look a bit different. So you see here this is mastered, and again I'm going to have to blank off the customer's information, but it's a little bit different in the way it's filled in. You'll see the details of installation, there's less tabs along the top, so you're kind of scrolling down the page to fill them all in, where you would enter about the installation characteristics and what you've actually done. pretty much standard. If you're used to filling out electrical certificates, it's really easy to fill in on the desktop software. I find it really straightforward and simple. And again, with your schedule of inspections, same sort of thing. Typically, I will pass all of these because you can see up here there is an option to pass all. It's not displaying now actually because I've mastered the certificate. So I'll show you an unmastered certificate as well in a minute. But I wanted to show you a completed certificate. So you see they're all ticked in the right places with NAs to stuff that isn't applicable. And then you've got your boards and tests. And you can set this is something that's a bit different with a board viewer, so you can create a DB layout, and I'll show you that as well when we've got an unmastered certificate. If we go into here to look at the mastered version of this, you'll see how this looks a little bit different. So I've got my logo on there. It's more traditional, should I say, than the NAPIT desktop search used to look. You have all your information on there, again through your schedule inspections, all pretty standard. And then your test results. So that looks a little bit different to what those of you who have used NAPIT Desktop in the past will be used to. And we'll have a look at creating a test certificate in a minute. I think we've actually got one in progress that we can look at, but we'll jump to that in a second. So EICRs, and again, this is one that's in progress, so we can have a little look at this one. This will give us a bit of a feel for how the software works. So you can see here again, I'll have to blur out the customer information, so excuse that. You've got the ability to set the dates where the works were carried out, the type of premises, exactly what you've done. I haven't completed this yet, so it's work in progress. It is an unsatisfactory report, and then you can enter your engineer details and stuff. And they're all pre-populated, so if you've set up, I'll show you how to do this as well, set up your engineer details, you just select them from the pre-populated drop down and away you go. The supply particulars, again, pretty standard information to enter. It's all there as it usually was, so there's no real major change there. The observations section's been pulled forward, so you'll see here you get a list of observations, and you can set exactly what you want those to be through the schedule of inspections, but you can also adjust them once you're in here in the observations. So you'll see here we've got that the service head's been damaged and there's exposed live parts. We've coded that as C1, and yeah, that's fine as it is. There's no need to adjust that, so I'm happy with that one. Again, with your labels, you can click onto there and see the reasoning behind that. It gives you the regulation number as well. That's all pre-populated, and it links in with code breakers. So if you've seen NAPIT code breakers, it's a really good reference document to have. There are some codes in there that I disagree with, but on the whole, it does really help in explaining some of the observations and regulations that we see in layman's terms, as well as making sure we've got all the factual regulatory information we need in there. So that's really good. Yeah, so I'll show you on the schedule of inspections how they kind of link together. So you can see here as you're going through, there's the service head we've put a C1 on. So if we were to click onto there, you can see that that's done. But let's go and make up another fault. So we see the meter tails are ticked. Let's change those to C2. You can see it brings up a list of options. So I can say that they've been had in the sheath, cut too short, and you can add on to this here if you want. So I could just put some random text in so I know to delete it. Save that, and then you can tab the add observation, set, and then if you go into the observation section, that will be in there, probably at the bottom. Where has it put it now? It's put it there, look. So you can see how that's been added in. So I need to remember to delete that one, which I will do. And yeah, you'd work through your schedule of inspections as you normally would, add your codes as you work through them, and it'll pre-populate the observations ready, so reducing your admin. Again, you need to select your tests you've done, and it'll ask you to enter the serial numbers for those as well. Quick select the date and engineer at the bottom, and then your boards and tests, same as ever. You've got set the characteristics of the board out, the dates the tests were done, and then enter all of your results. And you can see we've got some pre-populated results in here. And again, all of these are dropped down. They'll give you the options for your fuses, RCDs, RCBOs. It pre-fills in the max ZS values. You can change it from 80% to 100% depending on how you carried out your testing. You can pre-populate the installation resistance values with a set value, which is quite useful based on your test instrument. So if you want to set that to greater than 200 megohms, 1000 megohms, whatever you want to do, you can pre-populate all that, so you're not repetitively entering that information. It's already there when you load up. So obviously if you've measured a value that's below the standard value you typically record, you need to remember to still set that and not just carry on regardless. It's easy to go into autopilot mode. Yeah, it does some really powerful stuff in the way it links things together. It's quite impressive. You can have a generic continuation sheet, and you can see here I've dropped a little note in. You can put attachments in, so if you want to attach an image and reference its number and such, you can do all of that. You can import from the NAPIT FastTest mobile. You can attach a file directly, however you want to do it. It's all under your control. So it's really, really powerful. You can preview the certificate. So if we go into that, you can have a little look at how it looks while you're working through it. Obviously we need to order these codes before we've finished, but generally we work through them, get them all in there, and then automatically rearrange their order. So they're a bit simpler for the end user to work through. So if we go back to the certificate again, so yeah, it's really good. And again, here you can set the status. So once I'm happy, at the minute it's not set, but when I'm happy it's ready for review, we can change that. At the minute it's partially complete, so I should have set it's partially complete, but I haven't. And then when you're happy that the review's been done and it's ready for mastering, you can change it to that state, and then somebody who can spell better than me in our office will read through it and make sure that there's no basic errors in the spelling, although it does check its spelling itself, but you know what I mean, you can always, I get my words jumbled up, so sometimes it's worthwhile having somebody read through things and make sure that you've done that correctly. You can generate reports, so if you want a validation report, this looks through the certificate and sees that you've filled all of the right boxes in, nothing's been missed, and you can see here it's failed validation because I haven't finished it. It's asking for some essential information that's missing, so that's really useful. Again, you can do an excessive ZS valuation, so it'll look at all the ZS values based on the protected devices and check that they meet the requirements of that. Really useful. That's passed at the minute. You can have a look at the installation board details, so it'll tell you the number of ways. That's handy to print out and put in the customer pack or load in as a PDF. You can look at all the certificates that have been issued. Print a single line diagram if you've got a number of sub dBs and such, which is nice to do. And you can print your circuit charts. Sometimes, as you know, circuit charts aren't provided at boards. We go and inspect, so you have the facility here to produce them really quickly and print them out. It's an easy win as an extra sales strategy to your customers, that on completion of an EICR, if circuit charts aren't there, you can include them within that service. I mean, obviously you'd be noting that within your EICR, but you can solve the problem at the same time as filling in your normal paperwork. Really useful feature. So that's kind of the EICR side of things, and there are features in here I'm not even talking about, so I'm trying to keep this video condensed in a way that it's going to be useful but also not go on too long, so bear with me on that one. And again, we can close that down, so let's close that certificate down. We don't want to save it because I made some silly modifications, so that should get rid of those. You can have a look at some of these other ones if you want. So if I go into portable appliance testing, for example, you can add a customer and then create a list of items for that customer. So if you go in here, you can see the tested items, you just add them in. You can explain exactly what fuse size you've got, the load, the earth bond, function, earth leakage, all the typical things that you would do, and then the pass status. To be honest, we don't use this. We have our own separate system, pat testing, that's set up with our ServiceMate software. So we tend to stick with that because it's just easier while we're on site. But this is a useful feature for some people who maybe don't do a lot of pat testing. We'll go to sites where there's thousands of items, and yeah, it's just not the way we do it at the minute. It's not to say we might not start doing that in the future, but for the minute we don't. And again, your dangerous situations report, that's a really good one for if you want to issue out a notice to a customer that you can record to say you've observed something that they need to take action against. Really good one. The one I like the most though is this landlord electrical installation safety record, and this is a way you can tie your EICRs to remedial repairs. Often you'll get letting agents and landlords who'll ask you for an satisfactory EICR, and as we all know, that's not how the actual process works. You do your EICR, you do your remedials, and the certificate for the remedials go alongside the EICR, and then you have a satisfactory install. And you can, with NAPIT FastTest, just produce another EICR, take the codes out, and amend the test results and issue an EICR as well as the certificate for the job. That's not any hardship really, but this is another powerful way to get the same result. So you can see here I've pre-populated it with our inspector details, which are me, and again they're in the drop down. You can choose import details from an EICR, so it brings up a list of all your recent EICRs. You can search through them for a client. I won't do that because I'd only have to blur it out anyway, but I've pre-populated this with another client's information. It brings their address details, it brings all of the defects from the EICR with its reference number, the date it was done, and then in the remedial action taken section you can click in for the EIC or minor works, a number that you can add in there, and any other details you want to add that maybe weren't covered by that you can drop in as well, sign it, and then if you print preview it'll show you this in here again, explains exactly what this document does, and basically when you get to the bottom it gives you a big tick that says satisfactory, and then the letting agent can say that they've received it, and the next safety test due date is shown as well. And obviously this is just a test certificate, so it's not actual factual information in here, but it gives you an idea that you can give the letting agent and landlord what they want, but all you're really doing is a couple of clicks of a mouse and joining those two documents together in a really simple way. It's a nice thing to do, I think, and again it positions you as offering simple solutions to problems for your clients without adding any real extra admin onto the job. So that's a quality way of doing stuff, I think. Again, the fire alarms, we don't really get involved with fire alarms, but you've got your inspection and servicing, acceptance, commissioning, verification, design, installation, and then inspection and servicing. So if you're involved in fire, you've got all those certificates in there. I'm not going to sit and talk through these because, as I said, we don't do fire, so I don't want to kind of start spouting stuff that's going to lead you down a rabbit hole. Again, here with emergency lighting, you can see we've got one in here already. We do have emergency lighting certification that we've done in a different way before. I thought I'd give NAPIT FastTest to go on a job, and it worked really well actually. I've still to complete all the information in there. I've tried to keep the client details away, and again you've got all your tick boxes here for running through the plans of the building where you can do your yes, no's and NA's. You've got your schedule continued, and then the areas that you've covered, so you can kind of add in items that you've tested or not tested. It's really useful, so I will run through it very quickly. You can see how you would put in the details from the site, any deviations that you might have seen. This is a completion certificate, by the way, so it's a system you would have installed, and then just add the lights on, create a system for that particular setting. If we have a look at let's have a look at an existing periodic inspection and test, because I have got one here that's finished, and again I'll have to blur the customer details out on this one, but basically same principle to the completion certificate, where you fill the client details in, state what the system actually is, and then the site inspection report. So that's basically a list of the light fittings and what's been done. And if we look at the mastered certificate here, this is kind of what you get outputted, and it shows the lights themselves, any associated reference numbers you've attached to them, and what the light fittings were and where they were. It's a nice, simple, effective way to present an emergency light testing certificate on a smaller installation. Ventilation, again, this is for your intermittent extract and continuous extract. We tend not to use this again, but it's there. We may use it in the future, but for the time being we don't. If you look at notifications, this brings up a list of every single job you've notified to building control, and I'm going to have to blur all of this out, to be honest. I can't really show much, but you can add a notification, so you can go in here and put your reference numbers in, the customer's email address, where they lived, all the work details. It'll pre-populate a lot of this as well based on the certificates you've got in the FastTest software, It does postcode lookup, so you don't have to type everything in. It's really straightforward. All you need to ensure is that you've got credit on your certificates. As you know, if you're used to NAPIT, you buy credits and then it kind of draws down from that when you make a notification. So that's really useful. You can schedule jobs back up, so when you've done a job and you want to schedule a repeat inspection, for example, you can schedule that up. If we go back right to the very beginning there, and if we have a little look at some of the main settings for the software, I can show you some of the ways you add your logos and such. So I don't know if I mentioned here, I think I did, you can do the cloud sync, where you can sync all of your existing certs up to the cloud and then get access to them in other places. But if we go into certificate settings, this is my FastTest, how I log in. So it's got all my details on, my signature, phone number, email address, and it pre-populates all that into any engineer selectable boxes. So you can draw your signature, you can select your company logo, select your scheme logo if you want to display them. You'll see here, I don't, so we don't have those in. We do use the company logo. Oops, I've clicked out of there, so apologies for that. We do use our company logo, but not the scheme logo. And again, I can set any test instruments that I use with serial numbers, calibration dates. You can pre-populate your next inspection date if you like. I've left it because ours are so varied, there wasn't really anything to choose that would be any more use than the other. You can choose on your minor works and stuff if you want to default to manual mode DBs and all of these, disable schedule of tests and whatnot, auto validate on save. I leave all of that off because I prefer to work through the certificate myself, just personal preference. Again, your installation resistance value, you can set that based on the instrument that you use. Braking capacity of your MCBs, if you work primarily in domestic or commercial, you can preset that based on what environment you're used to. I keep having fat thumbs on the trackpad. You can show your observation totals, so that's quite useful on an EICR. It'll total everything up. Again, I've left that off. You can maximize all windows when you open them. Again, I leave that off because I tend to have a couple of screens running at once. You can choose your header colors on the certificate, software update. If you want to default a certificate style, you can do that. And your companies and resources, again, you can see we've got our company logo, and I don't have a scheme logo set, so that's not included. So that's pretty much it for setting it up. And again, your company information can be adjusted through looking at the postcode. It's all made as intuitive and simple as possible. So I hope that's proved useful looking through the desktop version. If we jump back onto the certificates again, and if we go and have a look at an electrical installation one, I'll try and pick a bigger one out here. What have we done recently that's reasonable size? This one. Let's have a look at this one. Because there's a few circuit charts. I might have to copy it and then make a new certificate. I'm not sure if you can look at the validation reports on a mastered certificate. I have a feeling that you can't, but we'll have a little look. So you can see it's opening. Excuse me. It's opening up. So yeah, you can look at your reports, and if we go to the line diagram, it'll show you here how the submains are populated on this install. You can open them up and it'll tell you if you've got any DBs that are unconnected. So we've got a supply here, then we've got DB1 which splits down into the other submains. You can show all used circuits if you want, so it'll include every single circuit on your line diagram. You can show the spares, just show everything. You can reorder the boards if you want, include hidden boards. You know, there's such a lot you can do with that. And then you can print it, and it'll show you exactly what you've got if you want to print it as a PDF or an actual piece of paper, which is nice to do, I think. So that's the line diagram with a board viewer, and again with your circuit charts, you can include the test schedule of results, select all the boards, print them. And again, apologies for any data that's blurred, it's just customer information. And you can see all of your results there, as well as having the circuit charts, so sometimes that's handy to leave at the board as well for the next person. So I thought that was a useful one to present. A validation report on this one, and again, because this is a mastered certificate, the validation report should be correct. And you can see there the certificate validated successfully, so that's great. and you get a printout of that as well. I closed that off a little bit quick, my bad. But yeah, that's kind of where you're at with it. It's really quite helpful in the way it leads you towards producing these certificates. I think it's a nice way to work on an actual desktop. It's my preference, but not while I'm out on site. So when we go to site, particularly to do domestic EICRs, we will do them all on an iPad, and then I will review them on a desktop later on. So all the information syncing in the cloud is where it's actually very, very helpful for me. There's no messing around with using Dropbox, for example, or OneDrive, messing about with SD cards and things. It's all kind of taken care of within the software, which is really rather useful. You can see here I've got an electrical installation certificate that's ongoing at the moment, and also an EICR. So that's where someone's produced an EICR and then I've copied it into an electrical installation certificate because there are remedials. But if we go into the EICR of this customer, I think this is the one I showed you earlier on, I can then say this is an EICR that's we've had Matthew go and have a look at it one day, and then another day I'm going to work on it as well. You know, we're both going to be on site. So if I need to be here too, I can assign this. I can choose myself. So I don't want to assign and lock it. I'm just going to assign it, and that will now be available on my iPad. So we'll have a jump out to the iPad screen and we'll run through it. Looking at it on the iPad, I'll try and record the screen on the iPad rather than holding my phone over it. So we'll see if I can get that sorted out, and we'll have a look at it on there and then draw this video to a close. If you have any questions on the NAPIT FastTest, let me know. Drop the comments below. Again, I've tried to make sure I've showed you enough, but without showing any potential customer information, and show you how the certificates present and work, and when they're outputted as a PDF as well. Actually, just before we go off the laptop, I'll show you that. Where can we find some certificate? So yeah, we'll open one up and you can have a look how it presents as an actual PDF file. And again, I'll have to blank the customer details off, but you know, you get a normal PDF just as you would anywhere else, and then you can output that on an email or into your custom software. So if I spin down to service mate, and where's this customer? Here he is. If I open his job up, and again I'll have to blur off anything here, and you can see I've dropped all of his certificates in there. So we've got a validation report and the actual there's the invoice, so the actual certificate itself as well, and that's all saved to the job now. So really quite useful. Go back into NAPIT FastTest. So I'm going to get the iPad, sort of screen recording out. Just bear with me a sec and we'll carry back on with the video. Okay, so let's open NAPIT FastTest and have a look. I'll turn on the screen record now. It's just giving me a countdown. So I believe we are now screen recording. If I go into, what was it? I think it was an electrical installation condition report I sent myself. So if I go into there, it'll cloud sync, and it's brought that through. So if I click on edit, and again I'm in the certificate, and I'll have to blur bits of this screen out as I link these two together, so apologies for that, but it's a similar sort of layout. And again, I showed this on a video recently, an install in Scarborough, but I was doing that from my phone, just recording the screen, so I thought this might present a little bit better. But you get the installation details where you can set the dates, what type of installation it is, all the normal things you would expect to have, your extent of the installations that's covered, your declaration of your findings, and again, remember this certificate's work in progress, it's not finished. So your supply characteristics, there's lots of drop down options. So if I'm clicking on the CSA of the copper earthing conductor, you can change that. You can select if water and gas pipes are connected and in place. Again, with your observations, it shows you what they are with all the codes, and these are all user editable at the iPad itself. Your boards and tests, same thing. So you'll see here you've got your board details that you would normally set, the dates and such that it's been done, the instrument you've used, any circuit details you've got to record. You can select all of those, and again, it's drop downs. There's loads of preset values you just choose from. Really intuitive. You can choose different conductor sizes and all sorts, your reference method, your wiring types, how many points there are, what the actual circuit designation is, and then if you scroll along into the test results, you can start entering values based on what your test instruments are telling you, which is really rather useful. It's very simple, easy to follow. Again, you've got pre-populated things you can choose. You can adjust these lists as well to include other things based on your typical installation scenarios. So yeah, really very useful. Any attachments you want to put in, so if I want to attach a picture, for example, you can then choose that, load it in, and it pops it into the certificate, which is brilliant for EICRs. So if you want to link an attachment file, typically is what I used to do, was use, is it Site Report, I think it's called, an app. So I would collect all of the pictures, produce a separate site report with annotations on them to explain which code they link to, and then send both of those documents. Now with this, I can attach an image directly and put comments against it. I don't think I've got any pictures in here at the minute that I can really show you. Let's take a picture. If it wants to access my camera, so I'll take a picture of this microphone. So hopefully that's coming across on camera, so I can use that photo, and it wants to access my photos, so it can do. And again, I don't take this iPad to site to do work. I have another one, an older one, that's a bit battered and bruised. So this one hasn't really been used for NAPIT FastTest as such. But again, you've got your image one. You can add any comments. I should put on here, should be muted. No one wants to listen to me. So should be muted, and save. Now that image is tied to the certificate now, so if I go back into the desktop version, that'll be there. When we produce the EICR at the end of it, that picture will come along with that comment, and it'll display as you would expect it to. And again, with your generic continuation, if you want to add any information in, you can. Yeah, it's really quite powerful. And again, you can see that here, should be muted. Fantastic. Once you're finished and you're happy that you're all sorted, if you click the dots up here and then just choose save, it'll save the certificate and upload the attachments, any of your other changes, to the certificate and sync it. So you can see there's conflicts here as well, and it'll ask you to resolve them if you want to use a local or remote file. Just going to close that for now. And it's been saved up to the cloud. Again, if you want, you can email direct from here, you can master it from here, you can run the validation from here as well. So you don't need to go and input any information on the actual desktop version of NAPIT FastTest. You can do it all from an iPad or other tablet device. It does work with Android and Apple. But for me, I find using the two in collaboration for the business we run work really well. So we have users who will collect information on an iPad. I'm one of them at times, and then I can cross-reference it all on desktop. So I hope you found that useful. And again, even in if I go to home, and you can see here you've got access to all of the different types of certificates, but you can also go into settings and you can add a signature. You can change the background colors of your headers. So if you want to see a sample header here, it'll show you that. So I can see here I've got the colors that you want to apply, any test instruments you want to set. Sorry, you want to set values on, your custom serial numbers, default settings, membership options. You can choose if you want to use a different type of certificate. Set your values the same as you would in the desktop version. Really very useful. So that's a fantastic feature to have built in. And again, your notifications, you can see all of those on the iPad as well. So it's really, it's brilliant, isn't it? I think I really like it. There were a few gremlins with the old NAPIT desktop and their old NAPIT mobile. They were a bit clunky in the way they worked. Desktop I got on with fine, but the NAPIT mobile version was never something we used very much. It was just a little bit too clunky, and we stuck to different ways of collecting information to then recording with desktop. But now I'm quite happy to do most of the work on an iPad, and it's brilliant to then come back to desktop and do any reviewing that you need to do. So I'm going to stop that screen recording in here now, and hopefully it's going to save. I really hope that I've not lost that footage. Yes, it has saved. Brilliant. So I hope you found that useful. I'm sorry if it's gone on a bit long and bored you. I've tried to get as much in there as I can without going on and on about stuff that most people aren't going to use. I realise that a lot of you are electricians who work in domestic property generally, so I've tried to lean on that more than anything else. If you've got any other questions about NAPIT FastTest, I'll drop a link to the website in the description of this video where you can go off and see all the marketing material. They do offer a trial period for NAPIT members, so you can get access to this as a trial version and see what you make of it. And again, I'll drop the link in the description to this video where you can go off and do that. And just to say, this isn't paid or sponsored. I'm just doing this because I like to make content for YouTube, and we do use this software, so I thought you might find it useful. Otherwise, thank you for watching. If you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down based on this video. I hope I've managed to edit it together in a way that makes sense and show enough information whilst also protecting my customers' information. I'll see you all in the next video.